To all the cyclopses that are in the building. Dr. Israel, my Hebrew mentor, I owe you a phone call, I know. And to all of the constituency, this is the real spiel. No live drive today. Brother got to get a day off sometime. But this is the real spiel. And I know some of you have been a little discontent with some of the commentary that has been going on this channel in the last few days. But it behooves me to tell you what's going on. And if you won't get mad at somebody, get mad at me. Don't get mad at your brother, your sister, your mama, your wife, your husband. You can get mad at me. There's this guy on social media. He grinds my gears, but I gotta listen. So let me lay something on you. Let me lay some things down for you. Okay? And we'd like to again thank all of you that's been coming on. We had 10,000 people watching yesterday. Y'all are real busy. Y'all are busy. Y'all want to know what this old Trinity man is talking about. But I'm going to tell you. The first 100 days. The first 100. That's what they're talking about now. What's going to happen in the first 100 days? Can I tell you something? As the title tells you, the first 100 days won't be the same for everybody. Can I go step by step? Would you like me to do that? I'm going to go step by step for you. I'm going to talk about domestic policy. I'm going to talk about the economic ramifications, both internationally and domestically. I'm going to talk about the civil unrest that's going to take place. I'm going to talk about, you got to remind me some of this because it's coming off the top of my head. I'm going to be talking about the people that will produce. I'm going to talk about the new powers of the police. And I'm going to talk about, first and foremost, let me start with folks who I have to talk about. Let me start talking about the Latinos. We had a brother come on yesterday, and he said, I think he was in Los Angeles, and just came in. What did you miss? You didn't miss a doggone thing. You missed the introduction. The introduction is the first 100 days of Trump. And I'm talking about a multitude of things. I just ran a laundry list down. You'll see it on the replay, but you're going to hear it live, so you didn't miss anything. Let's talk about, first and foremost, the Latinos of America. You beautiful people. And like I said yesterday, the Latino vote was approximately 50-50 between men and women. It was approximate 50-50. 50% of Latinos voted Republican, 50% of Latinos voted Democrat. Both men and women, I think women voted a little more for Kamala, of course, and the men seemingly voted a little more for Trump, which blew my mind. It blew my mind because, number one, the number one dictate of your new emperor, who said, in the first 100 days, I will be a dictator. Did he not say that? He said it. This is what he's going to do. He said that he's going to create a deportation policy like never before. And he is going to deport the millions of illegals in America. Let me explain to you what that will look like and how to roll that out from Trump's mouth to the street. In order to do that, what he has to do, first and foremost, is first of all, new legislation has to come down. Legislation that allows for, listen to this, the picking up of anyone who looks illegal. Therefore, the federal government and the individuals who will institute this, I believe they're referred to as ICE in your country, is they will have the sweeping powers to effectively pull over, interrogate, investigate anyone that looks or seems to be potentially an illegal. Because illegal people aren't sitting around in a place that's called illegal people residence, right? They're non-documented. How do you go and find these individuals? You will have to profile. You will have to profile potential places where you believe illegals will be. That means that you will be going to places and you'll be doing sweeps. checking for documentation of people that look illegal. Right. So for the Latino population, we know they're starting with you. They're absolutely starting with you. And that means that stop and frisk, illegal searches, and things that you think were illegal yesterday will be very legal today. They'll be very legal today. Now, the upside of that domestically is there's about to be a whole bunch of new federal jobs. Yes, there's about to be a whole new federal task force of all these wonderful public sector individuals. Who are they going to go find and hire to go do this task? Because this requires a domestic army of people that have the capacity to go out there and arrest millions and millions and millions of people, some of them who will be actually legally documented Americans, right? Some of you are going to get pulled over, ask for your passports. You legal Americans are going to have to travel with your documents. You're going to have to get your passports like you are in Warsaw, like you're in Germany in the Second World War. You're going to have to travel with your documents. You'll have to prove your citizenship. That's right. That is very correct. For the people who are illegal in America, that is going to create an incredible fear, because some states, specifically red states, will do it more zealously than blue states. So what you're also going to see is you're going to see immigration, a domestic migration, rather, of individuals, just like you saw with our good friend DeSantis in Florida. People were leaving Florida and going to other places that did not have these stringent immigration policies. But these immigration policies are now going to be nationalistic. That's right, nationalistic. And somebody's saying here, there's enough hillbillies with guns who will gladly take the job. And that is 100% right. Because will be now empowered to go out there, lynch, pull over, drag anyone that looks like they're not American, looks like they're not one of us. Correct. So the Latino community, you are about to experience a domestic terrorism that you have never seen before in these first 100 days. That is correct. Your children, your mothers, your grandparents, you are about to be treated like dogs for the next 100 days and however else long this particular mandate is going to turn out. You are going to be treated like the Jews back there in old Nazi Germany that had to walk around with a yellow triangle. They're going to have to mark you as an illegal. That's correct. And then let me just finish that part off before I move on to more interesting stuff. Once they get you, this is the problem. You're undocumented. So because you're undocumented, they know you're not American, but they don't know where you came from. They don't know if you're Mexican. They don't know if you're Colombian. They don't know if you're from Venezuela. They don't know where you're from. And so therefore, they can't deport you. That's right. So what do? You will be incarcerated. You will be in prisons. Well, great news. That means America's going to have to build much more prisons to store all of these millions of Latino Americans or non-Americans that they are going to imprison but cannot deport. Because listen, just because you're Latino and undocumented doesn't mean Mexico, Venezuela, or any of those countries has to take you back. You can't just say, we're going to send you out. They have to send a travel document to allow you to be received into their country. They have to participate with ICE so that you can actually be deported. So ICE isn't going to release you back into the community and wait. Why would they do that? They are going to incarcerate you. You will be, first of all, because they're not going to be able to build prisons overnight, you're going to go to federal prison to wait your deportation. and you will probably be in federal prison for years. For years. Even if you say, I'm Mexican, I just want to go back. Just let me go back to Mexico. Mexico's going to say, where's your travel document? You can't get on a plane without a travel document unless they're going to drop you in Mexico in parachutes from bombers and just put parachutes on you and throw you off the doggone plane. You're not going to be able to be deported. And so you're going to be incarcerated for years. Scary move. But hey, don't worry, you won't be alone, because when they finish doing that with Latinos, they're going to start looking at black people who have accents. Yep, you blacks have. I'm telling you right now, if you are a black person in America and you're even documented, you're a Haitian or you're a Jamaican, you better work on your American accent right away, because the second they hear any accent, he don't sound like an American. He don't sound like he's from Baton Rouge. He sounds like he's one of them foreigners. And they're coming for you too. Because they never leave black people out. They never leave black folks out. And all you Latino, Afro-Latinos who more identify as Latinos, most of y'all are going to change your doggone accent too. People are going to be afraid to speak their indigenous languages. You're going to be afraid to speak Spanish. You're going to be afraid to speak Portuguese. You're going to be afraid to speak French if you're a visible minority, because you do not know who's going to be listening. That goes on to point number 2. They have to also create incentive programs for people to turn you in. That's right. They got to create reward systems to turn you in, to incentivize the regular public to say, I think she's one of those illegals. I think I should report it. I can get $500 for reporting an illegal. And that, baby, is going to turn into a hell of a mess. You don't think it's that deep, Zenobia? If he says that he is going to create, and we've already seen this happen. You already had kids in cages. This is not new. He's just saying, I'm going to do more than I did before. You've already seen it. It's already happened in America. It's just going to happen worse. Let's go to part 2. Part 2 is that Donald Trump said that he's also going to give the police more powers. He's going to give the police more powers. He's going to bolster, of course, police forces and have a federal budget for potential police forces. Maybe if it's not a federal budget, I won't go to the federal budget part. He's going to give them more powers in the Criminal Code of America, which will be sweeping. It'll be amendments to the Criminal Code. These amendments to the Criminal Code will incorporate 2 specific things. Number 1, the amendments to the Criminal Code in America will incorporate a level of liability protection to police officers. So police officers that in the accordance of their duty accidentally shoot or kill or hurt other people who are potentially innocent, those officers will be protected by the Criminal Code. There's already it already affords any officer that protection. Any officer, police don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm just going to go kill Negroes today. Well, maybe they do in America, but it does afford officers some protection. But what you like is you see how swift justice fires and prosecutes these officers. Trump is going to overturn that. He's going to create a scenario that under the Criminal Code, and a police officer in the performing of their duty will be protected from liability and will be protected from being charged criminally or civilly if they accidentally kill somebody. Why would Trump do that? Why would Trump want to give immunity to public servants? Because he wants to do it for himself. He's very sensitive to that. So, of course, after he allows himself to receive immunity, he is also going to make sure he gives the immunity to the police officers who are able now to feel that at least I can do my job. This is what they're saying. And I won't have to be worrying about going to jail or losing my home. What is that going to do in America with your poorly trained police forces in most of these small towns and in most of these urban populations? That means that you're going back to the 70s. You're going back to a time where police officers had carte blanche to stop and frisk, to beat you down in the street. You're going back to George Floyd. You're going back to times where officers roll up, shoot first, and ask questions later. It's going to be a terrible time. And are they already doing that in America? Yes. But now they're protected. Now they're protected. Now they don't have to think about it. Now they don't have to worry about it. And he said specifically, that is exactly what he's going to do. Okay? He has nothing to do with port training. I think it does. When you're a police officer, when a police officer only has to have a high school diploma to apply for the police force, that's bad training. That means that you're taking the lowest echelon of society and giving them a badge and a gun and the powers of arrest and the capacity to take away your civil liberties, and you're giving it to simple-minded people who can't make decisions, who are not solution-driven, but are driven by ego, aggression, and their lack of information. It's a very serious thing. It's a very serious thing when you have people that you're looking lowbrow, low intellect individuals that you're putting in those particular jobs, and you're putting them in those particular jobs in urban sectors when they don't represent those urban demographics. And you have a racial divide in America where a lot of people are walking in with implicit bias already, and you're not training them out of that, and you're not putting them in a position where they have to now be concerned of when they draw their weapon and how much force they use, and you're saying you don't have to worry about that no more. That's a problem. That's a problem, right? Let me move on. Number 3, Donald Trump said in this first 100 days that he is going to put tariffs on China. Ukraine's next. Tariffs on China, right? I'm going to tariff. I love the word tariff, okay? So a tariff is a tax to a foreign nation's goods so that when those goods come into your nation, the goods are more expensive. What that is meant to do, it is meant to protect the manufacturing of goods of your domestic nation so that this foreign nation that has the capacity to create the same things cheaper, your government has put a tax on it. So now those goods that would be cheaper, buying it from them, they're not cheaper anymore. And now you're forced to buy goods domestically that are already expensive. So he said that while he said, and listen to the stupidity of this man and the fact that everybody around him cannot be very smart, because I'm not that smart and I figured it out, that when you put tariffs on consumer goods coming from places that you and I, right, depended on those things coming in at an affordable price. Now what you've done is you've risen the cost of goods. But then this is what Donald Trump said. I'm going to lower the cost, all your grocery costs are going to go down. I'm going to make things cheaper, and all your household goods are going to go down. How are you going to do that when you've just put tariffs, forcing the prices of goods to go higher? Now incentivizing the domestic manufacturer to also match that price too and raise the price of his goods. And how are you going to make food cheaper? What are you going to tell the farmers? What are you going to tell the growers? Sell the stuff for less? How are you going to now take money out of the people who are producing the foods, mouths, and take money out of their pocket in order to now pass this stuff on to the consumer? It doesn't make economic sense. It can't happen that way. Because a tariff, all those prices are passed on to eventually the consumer. The price of transportation, the price of storage and logistics, all these things are passed on to the consumer. So a tariff is not going to stop the way you shop. It's not going to cause you not to click on Temu. It's not going to cause you not to download things from Amazon, because you're still going to need those goods. All it's going to do is you're going to look at it and say, wow, this is more expensive. This is more expensive. So what it will do for those things that are not essential, consumer spending will go down. When consumer spending goes down, what happens? When consumer spending goes down, certain industries go out of business because people aren't buying your goods. And when people aren't buying your goods, what do? You lower the price of goods even more. But it's a crazy price of goods too much. You can't cover your costs. So competition, this is what America is built on, the concept of capitalism. Competition is always good for business. It's good for the consumer because you have now to compete with individuals who are making things cheaper. This person has to find a way to match it, or this person has to go out of business. It's simple. But a protectionist economy doesn't help anyone because at the end of the day, the same goods from China that America is putting tariffs on, Canadians are not. So China just says, it's okay, you don't want to buy it? We'll sell it to the rest of the doggone world because everybody's shopping in China. Everybody. All those big brands, the Gucci's and the Armani's, where are they making their stuff? China. China. So how are you going to put tariffs on things coming from China when everything is coming from China? Everything is coming from China. And so somebody has said here, Zenobia, said you said it calls for us to be self-sufficient. If America's manufacturing industry was self-sufficient, you wouldn't need China. And you tell you why it cannot be self-sufficient. You will not be able to compete because of something called unions. That's right. The American worker is not working for $1 a week like they are in China. The cost of labor is incredibly expensive. The American manufacturer, he had to start thinking of other things when he eliminated his best resource, free Negroes. That's right. When slavery went, oh my gosh, the and told you we're going to be working for a fair wage. The cost of labor is incredible. And so you'll never be able to compete with China. Never. Because they have effectively no labor costs. So everything's going to become more expensive. Because you got to shop American, which is more expensive. Everything's going to become more expensive. Cars, for foreign cars, more expensive. Everything. Parts that are coming in, more expensive. Everything's going to become more expensive. So how is it that he's going to drive prices down when everything's going to be more expensive? You're not going to be making more money. You're not. Your employer's not going to pay you more because everything's more expensive. In fact, people might start getting laid off because everything's more expensive. It's not going to work. It doesn't make economic sense. But that's not my problem. Let's go on. Ukraine and Russia. Okay? This is a good thing I ride a bike. Ukraine and Russia. What's going to happen in the Ukraine? What's going to happen with that war in the Ukraine? Now, personally, I want to say this effectively. I can give 2 pieces of roti and a mango about Ukraine. I don't care. I don't care what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. That's none of my doggone business. It's none of my business. Because nobody cares what's happening in Congo. Y'all don't care what's happening in Congo. Y'all not putting Congo on the news. I don't see anything. Y'all don't care what's happening in Dimona, Israel, with all those saints that are not getting their fair shake. Y'all don't care about that. So why am I worrying about what's happening in Ukraine? That's family business. Those people are related. Those people should be able to figure out their business by now. But I'll tell you what's going to happen in the Ukraine, though. He's going to stop supporting Zelensky. He's going to stop handing Zelensky pockets and pockets of money to fight Putin. He's going to let Putin effectively roll over there and handle Zelensky. Zelensky is going to have to go elsewhere for his support. Why do I believe this to be the case? For those who don't understand or who know who Zelensky is the leader of the Ukraine and Putin is the leader of Russia. Because you go back and check the statements of Donald Trump about Zelensky. He has said, wow, Zelensky is the best salesman in the world. Every time he shows up, he walks away with a couple $1 billion. He walks away with a couple $1 billion, right? So this is why this is interesting to me. Because Trump, out of one side of his crooked little mouth says he's going to worry about America first. He's not going to send his troops into endless, meaningless wars that go on forever, right? He says, America first. We need to stop caring about what's going on in the world and mind our own business. But then he's going to go get involved in what's taking place with Putin and Zelensky. But let's say he doesn't. Let's say he does what I said the first time. And he just says, you know what? We're not supporting this anymore. We're not interested in this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. Ukraine, we're not supporting you. Oh my God. America has just said out of their own mouth then, by your president, that we are no longer supporting our allies. Do you see the problem there? Do you see the problem there? There's a little thing called NATO. There's a little thing called the United Nations. But let's go back to NATO. When you have America saying to individuals that they are courting to be in NATO, like Ukraine is not officially in NATO, but they're courting them to be in NATO, which is an issue because according to the Warsaw Act, never supposed to be courting Ukraine. The Warsaw Act said, you stay on your side of the world, I'll stay on my side of the world. And when America started getting involved with the Ukraine, now we're in contravention of the Warsaw Act. However, they don't care. And so NATO is saying, hey, Ukraine, come on over here. Come be one of us. Come be our allies. And Putin is saying, you're not going to have an ally that's sitting in my backyard. Just imagine, if Alaska still belonged to Russia, right? Imagine if Alaska belonged to Russia, and Russia was sitting right up there in Alaska, peeping over here, looking at Canada, and within striking distance of America, America would be very, very concerned about that. There'd be all kinds of weapons of mass destruction sitting in northern Canada, pointing at Russia's Alaska. Putin has the same issue. If the Ukraine is an ally to NATO, that means that Ukraine effectively is an extension of the West in his backyard, and he says, no way in hell is that going to happen. That's why he wants that place to say, oh, you want to be part of them? No, baby. We're about to come take stuff. And we're going to live in. Oops, I'm back. We're just going to let Ukraine be Ukraine. No, it's never going to be that. It's going to be like, hey, let me handle my side of the world. I'll leave you alone in yours. And Trump is going to back up, fold his arms, and say, Zelensky, you're on your own, baby. And if he does it for Zelensky, he's going to do it for that old fox over there in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Twice in a row I brought up Benjamin Netanyahu. If Trump has said that I am no longer going to send our soldiers into these ridiculous wars that last forever, what on earth currently is a war that looks like it's going to last forever? The war in Israel. And if you think American soldiers aren't over there wearing Israeli soldier uniforms, you bumped your head and you don't know what's going on. They have bolstered up they're backing them. They are sending not just weapons, they are sending bodies. And if Trump decides that he's going to withdraw and leave those Israelis to fight their own battles with weapons and with people, it ain't going to last very long. When you have a country the size of the state of New Jersey, and you say, well, we ain't going to support you anymore. We're not going to be sending soldiers over there anymore. So either he's lying, speaking out of both sides of his mouth, or he's telling the truth. Let's assume he's telling the truth, because y'all believe Donald's telling the truth every time he says something. If Donald Trump is telling the truth, then what's happening over there in Israel is about to come to a stop, because he's going to stop sending weapons. He's going to break his agreement and his relationship with Israel, which has never been done. He's going to stop sending soldiers, and Benjamin Netanyahu is going to have to make a decision. He's going to have to stop fighting, which he absolutely will not. He won't. Or he's going to have to go it by himself. And if he goes it by himself with a technological war where he's just throwing bombs, throwing weapons, and not sending manpower because he doesn't have enough manpower, that's going to get much more destructive. Because with human beings, you can go and you can be surgical. You can get in there, search it out, check it out, occupy it. But with drones and with effectively long-range missiles, you're not doing that, baby. You're going in there and you're saying, I'm going to decimate it so no one can be there. I'm not going to occupy it because I can't occupy it. I'm going to blow it up to make sure no one can go back. And that is a whole different type of warfare. A whole different type of warfare. That's 100 days of Trump. In a nutshell. In a nutshell. That's your first 100 days of Trump that you're going to see rolling down the pike. I can talk more too. I can talk more. There's more that's going to happen in your first 100 days of Trump. Let me tell you what's going to happen to your investments that are in the bank. All of you should be very concerned because you understand Donald Trump's polarizing effect on the stock market. He has the capacity to say something to trigger the volatile movement of stock. If I'm a major investor who is holding a stock portfolio, and let's say I'm getting closer to retirement age, what is the last thing I want? Listen to me. Tell me, talk back to me. The last thing you want is volatility. You want reliability. You want basic interest rates. You want 5%. You're not trying to be crazy because you're in capital preservation mode, right? Most Americans right now are older Americans. Most of your population is older. And most of the population that controls the greatest amount of wealth is older. So you're moving closer to your retirement, your golden ages. You do not want stock market volatility. Maybe the younger people, they have the capacity for something to shoot up overnight, right? And they have the time to correct in case something goes and shoots itself down. They can wait for it to build its way back up. But if you're an investor in the stock market with Donald, and you know what I know, that Donald can say anything and stocks go up and down, the price of your portfolio could be 50% of what it was yesterday, 30% of what it was yesterday. It could affect you greatly. You're not interested in that. So what are you going to do if you're a good investor? What are you going to do? You're going to take your money and you're going to move it into GICs, guaranteed investment certificates, things that don't worry about volatility. So how does that affect the stock market? If the massive amount of people are thinking like me, it means that people are pulling their money, billions, trillions even, are being pulled out of stock and being put into basic products that are effectively non-volatile. How does that affect the stock market when massive amounts of people are pulling their money out? What happens to the prices? They drop because people panic. They drop. So Donald Trump has the capacity in any given Sunday, especially in those first 100 days, to cause a Black Friday effect in the stock world. He can say something crazy and he could make people billionaires overnight, or he can say something crazy and cause people to panic overnight. And people, I'm sure, right now, have started to move their money away into capital preservation, out of equities into capital preservation, because they never know what the heck the Donald is going to say. That's right. That's the first 100 days of Donald Trump. Let me see what you guys got to say, because this is a reciprocal show. Here we go. Oh, thank you. I've been called profound. Even though the U.S. has all reserves and grows wheat, they still buy large quantities of oil and wheat from Ukraine and Russia. They do. Bring FUBU back. Problem is when you're getting used to affordable wealth, it's hard to let go of it. The United States owes China $800 million now, so our taxes go to pay the interest owed to China. Toyota makes billions off of us, and they have businesses all over the United States. I guess it's a call for us to be self-sufficient. We read that one. We had stop and frisk and no camera phones. Yep. I grew up with stop and frisk in the 90s, and it's coming back. It's going to be on a federal level now. It's not just going to be a scenario that's just for the police. Yes. Well, folks, that's your first 100 days of Donald. It's going to be interesting to see. Everybody's going to be watching their television. Everybody's going to be waiting for the next thing. That's really the highlights of the things that I've heard him say in the last little while. Let me throw this one at you and let me let you go home. The last thing that's going to happen is all of these major prosecutors are about to lose their job. What was that young lady that she was being arrested and she started singing that song, "You about to lose your job"? A lot of people are going to lose their job at major federal levels, and they are going to be replaced by Donald's drones. Donald drones are going to be all over it because remember, he controls the Senate too. So all the appointments, judges' appointments, all these things. Now, the only thing that I will say that is positive is that all of these all of his anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ legislation probably will come in with this stuff. So you're not going to have an America, hopefully, that is killing 1 million unborn babies every year. Hopefully that those judges and some of these new domestic policies will stop for the massive genocide of unborn in America. That is one of the good things of the Republican Party. The question is will they do that? This whole mentality of effectively allowing young girls and people who have just basically gotten pregnant carelessly to have the ability to utilize abortion as birth control. Abortion is not birth control. Abortion is murder. Birth control is birth control. And you know, if it makes it harder for women to have abortions, that means that now it would make it wiser for more counsel, more information, more education about young girls and women having or utilizing proper contraception. And I think that's the piece that people have missed with that particular conversation, that the capacity just to murder your unborn child is not a right at all. It never should be a right. And your ability to stop yourself from being pregnant, of course, starts with abstinence, but then moves into the areas of your personal responsibility. And so that is probably one of the better things that's going to happen with the Trump regime, is hopefully we'll see these numbers dip drastically from 1 million children, hopefully much less. And if there's any upside to Trump being in power and individuals who have the mindset to stop the massive abortions rate in America, that's probably one of the greatest pluses I've seen. He also has John F. Kennedy Jr. in charge of the nation's health. Oh my gosh. Find a doctor. But, you know, and with Trump, anything goes. I think I heard him say, I'm immediately going to try to tell people to get the fluoride out of the water. I'm not going to force them to do it, though. I'm just going to tell them it's not a good idea. Oh, my goodness. I don't know. It's incredible. But anyway, like I said, I guess there will be some upsides with some conservative policies, but individuals who are in their positions who prosecuted Donald Trump, they're in a whole lot of trouble. They're in a whole lot of trouble, and they're about to all lose their jobs. But this is Del K. Brereton, and this is The Real Spiel. This is the Shiloh Institute. Stand up, and I hope that we're in a position where we can watch the next 100 days together, where it's thumbs up and not, oh my goodness gracious, what did we do? I'll talk to you all soon. Have an amazing day.